And just like that, Dexter Lawrence, New York Giants defensive tackle, has been dealt. He has been traded. And unfortunately for Chicago, we are again on the outside looking in. And then quite honestly, a bit of a shocker, it's to the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, when I saw this come across the timeline, it was, whoa, wait. Cincinnati, after they just let Trey Hendrickson walk, after they would not pay Trey Hendrickson a man in their own house, they went through a couple of years with Trey Hendrickson of negotiation, posturing, just not able to get to a deal. And then they let him walk. And then they end up trading for a defensive tackle who, just like Trey Hendrickson, wants money, wants a new contract. And then your mind goes to, well, what did they get for him? What did the Giants receive for Dexter Lawrence? And then you see that the Cincinnati Bengals parted ways with the 10th overall pick in this week's NFL draft. 10th overall pick. Wild. And just listen, Bears fans, we were never going to get Dexter Lawrence if that's the price, if that's what they're getting. No way. And never would I want to trade a 10th overall pick for Dexter Lawrence. Don't get me wrong. Dexter Lawrence is a beast. He's an animal. He is awesome. He is a difference maker. He is a needle mover. But for the 10th overall pick, and you have to pay him, and he's aging, no, sir. There's not a lot of people in the NFL that I would trade the 10th overall pick for. Dexter Lawrence probably is not on that list for me. And why I was okay trading the 25th pick is because really at pick 25, it's a toss-up. Look at the long list of history of picks in the late first round. How many of them turn out to be anything? How many of them bust? How many of them don't live up to expectations? I mean, you're gambling. You play the odds, right? The odds of that 10th overall pick, you getting your hands on somebody that's going to impact your franchise in a positive way, is a lot higher than the 25th pick, right? So for the Bears at 25, you're playing the odds saying that Dexter Lawrence is going to be probably better than anything you can get at pick 25. And I agree with that. I believe that. That's why I'm open to it. That's why I wanted to do it. But at 10, you have access to the top 10 players in the draft, right? The talent is higher. The pool of players that you're selecting from, I think, is more of a sure bet or a sure thing than it was at 25, right? So that's why this is not apples and apples, not at all. The Cincinnati Bengals, just curious, man. You could have just, I get Trey Hendrickson's older, but you could have just paid Trey Hendrickson and then kept that 10th pick and drafted and added to your defense. You probably, if you needed a defensive tackle and there's not really any defensive tackles around that range, you could have traded back and collected more assets. It's just curious to me, right? I mean, I feel like the Bengals, they're paying a lot of money. I mean, their roster is top heavy, right? They're going to pay almost $30 million a year to Dexter Lawrence. God knows what Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Joe Burrow are all making. It's just strange roster building to me. For the Giants, I mean, they're rolling in it. I would be thrilled. If I had 5 and 10, good for them. They're probably going to improve that roster pretty quickly, and they've got Harbaugh. They should be laughing to the bank. I mean, Dexter Lawrence is an impactful player, so I think that they'll miss him. I mean, even with all those, the embarrassment of riches that they had at edge, those guys were not what they were when Dexter Lawrence was not on the field. Dexter Lawrence is an impact player. But what does this mean for the Chicago Bears? What does this say about our draft strategy? What does this say about Ryan Poles and his tendencies? Because this is yet another big deal, big trade that the Bears have decided not to pull the trigger on. We have let cooler heads prevail, right? We're not going to top that pick, never. And we were never going to top Max Crosby, the 2 first-rounders, never. So I think what it says to me, Ryan Poles is very disciplined, at least from, I think he's learned some lessons early on in his first couple of years as GM, but we never really see the Bears making that shock trade, dealing multiple assets. And what does it say about what Ben Johnson is trying to build? This is his real first offseason after, one season in the chair. What does it say about what we want to do? I'll tell you right now, we're planning for Caleb Williams in that contract. We're going to have to pay Darnell Wright. There's a number of things, moving pieces that we have to plan for. But I think that we are best served by keeping all of our draft picks and hoping that we hit on big impact players. You hit on those guys, you draft the right people for the culture, and you draft the people that can make an impact on the field. And then they're playing on rookie deals for the next 4 to 5 years. That's how you want to be doing it. Draft, develop, and re-sign your own, hopefully. Now, I will be honest. There was a world where if we did trade for Dexter Lawrence, does that make us a better football team? Yes. Would I have been excited? Yes. Would I have, liked our chances of at least doing what we did last year? Yes. Competing for titles, hopefully? Yes. But roster development, roster building a team that gets to the Super Bowl and wins titles. There's no silver bullet. Dexter Lawrence is not going to be the difference between a Super Bowl and a non-Super Bowl, between a playoff berth and missing the playoffs. Is there a world where not trading for Dexter Lawrence and keeping our picks makes us a better football team, a younger, more talented football team? Yes. That's why I'm saying roster building is not just a silver bullet. It's very much a Rubik's Cube. There are a number of compounding decisions that all play together. It's a puzzle. It's not just one move. It's very much a puzzle, right? And there's multiple different ways in which you can solve that puzzle. You saw the Eagles win a Super Bowl with Jalen Hurts, and now he's not the talk of the town anymore. Now his stock has dropped quite a bit, right? But then you see the Kansas City Chiefs win with the play caller, the offensive play caller, and the offensive MVP, and probably the best quarterback in the NFL, Pat Mahomes. 2 different styles. There's multiple ways to, for lack of a better term, skin a cat. So are we fucked for not getting Dexter Lawrence? No. I do want to figure out what this means for how we feel about our team and what we could be doing at pick 25, and then with that 57 and 60 in the second round. Let's just look at our roster. It is impossible to pretend to know what's in Ryan Poles' head, what's in Ben Johnson's head, especially after last year with Colston Loveland and Luther Burden. No one expected that. We needed trenches. We needed a running back. Things didn't happen in the order that we expected them to happen, but it turned out to be for the greater good. I trust those guys, right? I trust Ben Johnson. And so far, Ryan Poles with Ben Johnson, I trust Ryan Poles. So the best that we can do is look at our roster, find out where the holes are, and just try to logically assess, if you were GM, if you were a head coach for the Chicago Bears, what do you need to do? What do you need to walk away from the draft with? So let's just be brutally honest here. We're set at quarterback. Don't need a quarterback. Running back, we've got our tandem. We've got Swift. We've got Monangai, at least for the next year. I wouldn't be surprised if we added another running back to that room, whether it be in the draft, whether it be an undrafted free agent, whether it be whatever. I think we add another running back just for security, because Roschon Johnson, nada. We've got Rome, we've got Luther, we've got Jade Walker, we've got Khalif Raymond. Those are going to be our top 4 receivers, right? I feel good about that. I like it. Could we add another wide receiver in the draft? I bet you we could. We could probably use a burner. Obviously, all of the targets are going to go right here to Roman Luther and then Colston Loveland, right? That's going to be our 3. Khalif's going to be a gadget guy, but I think he's a guy that Ben trusts, so he could probably play a pivotal role. I would expect that he plays a larger role than what Olamide Zaccheaus played last year, just given the familiarity with Khalif and with Ben. Jade Walker, this guy's going to come in wanting to crush skulls. He's going to want to, make a name for himself. He's got an opportunity now to really earn his stripes. He's changed his number. He's going to be given an opportunity, and I liked what I saw in the opportunities that he had last year, and he's got rapport with Caleb. So could we draft a wide receiver? Yeah, probably not till later. Tight end, we're solid. Offensive line. So left tackle, we've got Braxton Jones, we've got Jedrick Wills, and we've got Theo Benedict. We've got 3 left tackles who are going to battle it out in camp. Left guard, we're good. We've got Tooney and we've got McFadden. Center, Bradbury, first year. He played in a Super Bowl with the Pats last year. He's a vet. I think he's average at best. It's fine. He's going to be sandwiched between Joe Tooney and Jonah Jackson. Not really worried about Bradbury. I think he's going to fit in fine. Although, there's a hole right there. We need to find our center of the future, and I would bet that with our 3rd round pick, it's a center. Or maybe, if we really prioritize that position, which I think Ben does, maybe it's a 2nd round pick that we use on a center. We'll see. But there's some damn good centers in the draft this year, and I think we can find our center of the future. It's just a matter of, are we doing that this year? Or do we think Luke Newman can play center potentially in the future? Who knows? That's in Ben's head, but that's what we have to guess. I'd say we probably draft a center, but not in the 1st round. Maybe 2nd. Right guard, we're good. Darnell Wright, right tackle. I mean, listen, we're solid at right tackle as long as Darnell's healthy. I would guess that in this draft, we're probably at least at minimum drafting a center and maybe an interior offensive lineman for depth. Obviously, we're not going to see Ozzie Trapillo for at least another year, and who knows what beyond that. So on the offensive side of the ball, I would be genuinely shocked if we drafted anyone at pick 25. The one wild card is left tackle, and it's just who's going to be on the board at 25. And Dan Rochar came out and said that we don't have the left tackle of the future. At least at present, we don't know who that is. It's a nameless face. Good, you created competition. That's why you signed Jedrick Wills. That's why you signed Braxton Jones to a 1 year. Theo, we know, is capable, and he's young, and he's hungry. That'll be a interesting competition to watch. Candidly, I would be surprised, but given that we've got a 3-headed race here at left tackle, adding a 4th name to that mix with our 1st round pick, I think it would be wild. I would be surprised. But you play the board, right? Ben said you'll play the board. If a left tackle of the future falls to us at 25, I don't think it's crazy enough to think that Ben could pull that trigger. But on the defensive side of the ball, Montez Sweat, right? Not a lot of depth behind him. Daniel Hardy also mixes in there, but we definitely could use an edge. On the other side of the ball, you've got Dio Adengbo, who's coming back from an Achilles. This is why it is such a toss-up. I think that we are very high on Austin Booker. I personally am very high on Austin Booker. He's 21 years old. He was injured last year. He made an impact in those Packer games. He made an impact in the preseason. He had a lot of opportunity to play, and I thought he flashed at moments. It sucks that injury kind of derailed the progress a little bit and set him back a little bit. But I think that he goes into the season as a starter. Austin Booker, for sure. You see the weight that he's putting on. You see him in the gym. You see him. I mean, this guy is dedicated, and I like what he's made of. He's talented. He's got size. He's adding the strength. He's adding the muscle. I think it's going to be a big year for him, and he's going to have a lot of competition because he has the opportunity to put Dio Adengbo on the bench. And you've also got another hungry player, Shamar Turner, who he's listed here at defensive tackle. He can play defensive tackle, but before he tore his ACL, he was mixing it in at right defensive end. So you've really got a 3-horse race again at that defensive end spot. Now, I think what we do if we draft an edge, which we absolutely should draft an edge, it's a guy that is versatile. It's a guy that can play behind Montez. It's a guy that can play on the right. If it happens to be like a Keldrick Falk from Auburn, he can also play inside. And here's what's interesting. Defensive tackle, there's also a hole there. I know that we signed Neville Gallimore. I know we signed James Lynch. I know we signed Contavious Street. We signed 3 defensive tackles, right? So that we're not desperate going into the draft. needing a defensive tackle in a draft where I don't think there's a ton of options at defensive tackle. There's, a couple of high-end options near the end of the first round, early second. Could we take one of those guys? Looking at the reason I think that it's actually possible, I don't love them as a scheme fit, but Caden McDonald, I mean, he's a blue chip player and he gets around the ball. Grady Jarrett, we could move off of next year, and he's old and he was injured last year. So like, how much can we depend on him going forward? I think we could totally move off of him next year. And depending on Javon Dexter's season, we might let him walk. Unless he has a great season, are we going to ante up and pay him? So there's massive question marks at both of our starting tackle positions, right? Grady and Javon could be gone. We need to find a defensive tackle of the future, somebody that's solid. And there's a couple of guys there. So already edge and defensive tackle, those are definitely positions at 25 that I think we could hit. As far as linebacker, Devin Bush, TJ Edwards, DeMarco Jackson, those are probably going to be our top 3 linebackers. Then you've got Jack Sanborn, Noah Sewell, Ruben Hippolyte behind them. Noah Sewell tore his Achilles. He's probably going to miss. I don't know when he gets back. I would imagine he at least misses half the season. He's been hard to rely on, which is a bummer because I thought he had a good year last year until he got injured. Then you've got Ruben Hippolyte who got hurt, and you don't really know what he is there. So could you take a linebacker? Yeah, because you could use some depth there. And if you happen to stumble upon a Jacob Rodriguez in the second round, I'm not above taking him. I would love that. I would be happy. Now the no-brainer is safety. Kobe Bryant, this is your one starter at safety right now. Cam Lewis is listed as the starter there, but that's because he plays DB. He plays corner and he plays safety. He's a versatile guy. That's why we signed him, because we don't have a starter beside Kobe Bryant right now. So that is the one obvious, this is the one position on our roster right now that we do not have a starter. We have to come away with a starter. So that's why I think Dylan Thieneman, that's why McNeil Warren, there's guys that are drawn to us. There's guys that are being mocked to us because of that need, and it is a need. So we could take a safety. We definitely could. But I do think the wild card is corner, right? Ben talks about best player available. Ben talks about playing the board. What corners could fall to us? Could Jamad McCoy fall to us? Probably the best cover corner in the draft. You've got Jalen Johnson. He's our guy, right? Injured last year, but he's our guy, number one. Tyreek Stevenson is going to have a big year ahead of him because he's in a contract year. Do we want to partner with him long term? Has he proven us enough? Has he showed us enough? We'll see. It's a big year for him. It's a big opportunity for him. Last year, he kind of felt like he was out of favor. Nashawn Wright was getting starts over him. We'll see. We need a healthy Kyler Gordon, but I love these 3 corners that we've got, starting here. Behind them, it's not looking awesome. You've got Terrell Smith, who's coming off an ACL. You've got Zay Frazier, who was our rookie, who L. Harris was excited about. I think we were all excited to see him. I think he's got length, he's got potential, but he didn't even play last year for problems, unbeknownst to us. Wasn't even suited up. Could he get in the mix this year? We don't know what we have. It's really a wild card. Could we take best player available and draft a beautiful cover corner? Something that, Dennis Allen would love. Somebody that can lock up man to man. That's why I'm not surprised. I wouldn't put it above us to take a corner at 25 if we get a really good player dropping. So if I was a betting man, the obvious options at 25 are safety, edge, defensive tackle, and possibly corner. Now, the player that I like the most that I would love to see us get is Dylan Thieneman. I don't love not taking trenches in the first round. I would almost always just blindly say trenches, add more guys to that group. But Dylan Thieneman is an excellent, versatile Swiss Army knife type of safety who can cover man. He's reliable, and we are desperate for a safety. The only issue is if we go safety at 25, then we're pretty much rolling the dice and saying we can get a defensive tackle or a defensive end in the second round or third round. A lot of edges are going to go off the board in the second round. Will we be on the outside looking in by the time we draft at 57 and 60? That's the problem. And then defensive tackle, almost certainly. It's not a huge defensive tackle draft. So if you pass up a defensive tackle at the end of the first round and you're waiting till 57, 60, there's a good chance that all the best defensive tackles do not make it to you. So I almost, despite me wanting Dylan Thieneman the most, I almost think it might be a wiser, better play to go defensive line at 25 and rolling the dice on one of the safeties at 57 and 60. Maybe you go like a Keldrick Falk at 25 or even a Messidor or Zion Young or somebody that's got some versatility there, and then a safety and a backer in round 2. Or you double up on edge in round 2. Or it could be a tackle with Caden McDonald. It could be Peter Woods. You never know. 15 to 35, it's anybody's bet. Where do you rank them? Where do the teams rank them? It could be anywhere. You see Zion Young mocked in the 30s and 40s. I've also seen him in the 20s. It's going to be a freaking Russian roulette. And I happen to like, if we do go edge in the first round, I like the safety out of LSU. I think he could start and play well, but do I love him in man? Not really. So this is the dichotomy that we find ourselves in. I'm just grateful that Ryan Poles appears to, I don't think he's pussy. I don't think he's soft. I don't think he's scared to make a trade, but we are always on the outside looking in when it comes to the Max Crosby deal, now the Dexter Lawrence deal, the Micah Parsons deal last year. We just never seem to be willing to ante up and make that big of a bold move, right? Which I'm grateful for, because as a Bears fan, we've had our fair share of drafts where we had no first round picks because we gave them all away for a previous trade, right? That ended up biting us in the tail. So I like the discipline. It's almost like a devil on the shoulder, angel on the shoulder, right? Trade multiple picks, go get that player, sit tight, be patient, acquire assets, draft young, develop. But the track that we're on with Ben Johnson, for the first time as a Bears fan, I trust our ability to profile and draft the right players, to get them in our building and develop them, to build a culture. You look at Luther Burden, you look at Colston Loveland, those are our prototypes. They love football. They are hungry. They're out there getting after it. They're building a bond with Caleb Williams. They're earning the trust of Ben Johnson. I think on the defensive side of the ball, we need to see a draft like last year's. We need a Colston Loveland and a Luther Burden on that side of the ball. Leaders, go-getters, workers. We'll see what happens. Yes, Dexter Lawrence is a phenomenal player. He would have made us better. But do I think that it's going to hurt us by not getting him? Nope. There are a lot of good players in this draft. I cannot wait to see who we get our hands on. This is my favorite time of the year. Outside of just the football season, favorite time of the year. Love it. Can't wait to watch the draft with my brother and have a handful of new Chicago Bears players to be excited about. Let's go, baby. Win the draft. Win the day. Bear down, baby.